Hello there, everybody, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are. Well, not good night, because I hope you won't go to sleep before this live stream is over. Sorry about the slight delay. The problem was that my other computer lost the internet connection, and I thought that the live did not start. I already see that there are quite a few of you, and if you can't hear me, please let me know. I hope the audio is okay, because I have had some problems, as you know, with the audio, but it seems, thanks Cliff, where is everybody from tonight? Because it's always interesting to see that people are from all over the world. But I'm glad that you can hear me. Anne from Kuopio, yeah, Maria from Portugal. That's good. So we already have Finland and Portugal. Do we have someone from the States or UK or even Australia? That'd be awesome, again, to have almost from every continent. There isn't usually people from Africa. That's okay. Descartes from Denmark. Welcome, everyone. Cliff Collins. Oh, you're from California, of course. I should have remembered that. So how's the weather over there? And Mats from Sweden. James Meeks from Oklahoma. That's a good. Arizona, USA. Great to have you here. Pennsylvania is Christina Barnes. Is that PA? That's Pennsylvania, is it? Welcome, everybody, again. And it was a really pleasure again to get some more images from you guys. And there were quite a few really, really excellent photography. And also the most interesting one was week 12. It was inspired by the photograph or a painting or something. That was really something that many of you had really put some effort to it and really given a thought. And I will tell which artist was the most, or which artist gave you the most inspiration. And you can put it on the comments already and start thinking how or who the artist was. I'm not going to say anything very famous anyways, but it's interesting to hear if you can guess it. But I will talk about that when we get into that part. Now, as I always have been saying, that the motivation is one important thing, and I can understand. We started with over 100 photographers. Now we are down to 79, so we lost about 10 to 20 per month, which is not nice, of course. But I can understand, because if I had to do all these assignments, photographing one excellent photograph a week, it'd be really, really hard. It's not an easy task to follow, because of course some of the stuff that you need to photograph for the assignment might be something that you're not that interested in. But the whole point is for you to get out and photograph, because that's the only way to learn. Because I realized how important it is to photograph as much as possible when I had the injury in the beginning of this year, and almost 2 months I couldn't photograph really anything, and that was really tough. And then get me going after that was actually tougher than I thought. So it is something that you should do. And of course I can understand that there is other things in life than photography too, but find a way to make as many photographs a year as possible. And if you want to be better, if it's just a past spending some time with photography every now and then, that's totally fine. I think you should all find your own way of making photographs, and I totally understand why this number goes down, and I hope it will stay at least at around 80 photographers a month, because why not? It's fun to see your images, because I really admire your talent and the dedication that you put into this. This week's most photographs I got for week 10, that was 77, and week 11 was 72, week 12 75, and week 13 was 71, and they were points to I think it was actually 30 photographers that got points, because there's a small mistake here. I think it was 30. And we have this time 41 images, because on week 12 the inspiration from paintings and photographs, I just couldn't pick 10, because that was the most kind of like picks for my first view of the images. What I usually do is, I just go through the images and mark the ones that I think are worthy of being in top 10 without looking at the names, because I don't want to know who the photographer is, so there's no influence to me, because I don't want to be biased by any means. I just want to get the best photographs no matter who photographed them. And that was the pick that I picked out of those, was around 30 images in the first round. That was the biggest one, and then I had to go down 20 images and that was really tough. So I decided to have 11 on that, and I hope this stretch of the rules is okay. Probably it is okay for those who got between 6 to 11. They won't oppose this because they got that extra point for that. But that was for reasons that the images were quite interesting or quite good, and it was also quite tough to go through those images, because there were some paintings that I've never heard or photographers never heard of, so I had to kind of check out the images after I picked the ones, and then I started to look at the inspiration image or painting, and it was going back and forth with images, and I will tell the image the paintings or photographs, but unfortunately I didn't have time to display those. That would have been pretty good to show the inspiration to side by side. But let's talk about that a little bit later. And that's just a reminder of the scoring system. That is, the best image gets 10, and then 8, 6, 5, 4, and then from 6 to 10 you get 2 points, and every image sent that meets the requirements of the assignment will get 1 point. And if you get 2 points, then it's not additional to the one, so you get from place 6 to 10 you get 2 points and not 3. And then of course the best of the month is extra 5 points. But okay, if we start with the let me set my keyboard so I can scroll through. Okay, you can see in the top of the image, you can see the points, that's 2, and then week, and then the name. And there was the week 10 is subject through a prism, crystal, or glass. And this was, of course, a little bit tricky, because there were a few that were, in my opinion, reflections. And that's basically a little different thing than just photographing through a glass. But on the other hand, some of the photographs were combining photographing through a glass and also a reflection. That's totally fine, of course. But none of the images were kind of like disqualified. They were inside the assignment, in my opinion. And yeah, let's start with this image from John Chastain. It's always when an image, you don't really know how the image was made. Is it through a glass, or it's inside out? Outside is the portrait of the couple. Is that a reflection, or is that photographed through a glass, or is it on a wall and then have a view out the window, or is it maybe even a composite image? It doesn't matter. But I think this tells a nice story. There is some kind of interesting looking portrait on the wall. I don't know if it's probably not a photograph. It looks like maybe a sketch with coal or a pencil. Not sure. And then you can see that there's a house and a tree in behind, and then there's some chairs inside and some, I don't know what those are. Those some curtains, or what are those in front? But really nice, kind of a black and white image, but I think it's still a color image, because you can see some fade of blue in the background and some pastel colors. But yeah, really well made image, and this, very visually pleasing too. I really enjoyed the image. And then we have an image from Roland Fisher. There were quite a few of these type of spherical balls that you photograph through, and I like the way that kind of hide the glass ball is kind of hiding the view of the bridge and the shape of the bridge. And this actually reminds me of a bridge here in Helsinki. It's the same construction, a little bit different, but it's not probably, if I understand, not the same bridge, but it looks the same construction type, and it's an interesting shape. And this was a bit of a cliche to have these. There's one certain time that these balls were really, these glass spheres or balls were really popular, and everybody was using them. I do have one, but I've never used it. I don't know, I got it from someone, but never really used it because I thought that it was a bit of a cliche. But there were a couple of pretty good ones on this assignment, so I think they were worth being in top 10. Then we have this from Don Gov, and it was a really surreal image and a little haunted feeling, or can you say a haunted feeling? But anyways, probably like a haunted image, and it's some kind of a glass that has this structure that is kind of like a round structure, because it looks like something you've been turning or something like that. And I like the black and white version of this, and it's quite symmetrical, which is interesting. It's something that I tend not to do, and that's probably why this image kind of caught my eye, and it was totally different than anything else. So that's also one reason that it was in top 10. Then we have this from Erin Green, this landscape, or not farmscape, maybe a farmhouse and some fields in the front and some snow, and then maybe also a reflection of a tree in a glass, and very artistic image, and could be printed big on a wall, and I think this could be framed on a wall. I think this is one of those images that looks very good as printed, and it's very simple image, I think, but again visually pleasing, and also like the color tones of the image. Let's go for the next one, and this was from Ian Wade. And yes, I really like the shape that the colors in the background does when it's photographed through a glass and through some water, and also the stirring stick is kind of like the opposite way as the lines in the back. And I think this type also is a bit of a cliche, but I think this was really well executed image, and I liked it, as you probably guessed, because it is in top 10. Maybe something could have been better, a little bit brighter maybe, and maybe some contrast so that the colors would pop, but I think it still works quite well. And also like how the stick is kind of broken because of the water makes how do you say that? But, no, you know what I mean by that. The water kind of I don't know the word, what it is. But let's go to the next one. And then we have this from Ari Tidenberg, photographed through some prism, probably that duplicates part. So there is probably some kind of a octagonal prism in front of the lens, which makes it really interesting. And then you still have the whole figure in the center, and then you have kind of like reflections and on the side. Refraction. Thanks, Cliff. Refraction. Yes, that's what it is. Yeah, and also like the colors and the small details in this. They look like butterflies. I don't know if this is some kind of a statue or something. Unfortunately, I don't have all the information about the subject here, but really artistic and a beautiful image. It's also something that you could put, framing on the wall, and have several of these different types of similar type of images that could really work. Let's go to the next one. A little similar than what we already saw, but to be honest, a little bit better executed because it's brighter, a little bit more contrast, and maybe this because there are more glasses, different types of glasses, probably, I'm not sure if there's different type of liquids in this, but that makes the different type of shapes, and it makes it more surreal and maybe a little bit busy, but in a good way. It's something that you don't really have that many places for the eye to rest, except in the middle, the bright spot in that glass, and then there is some type of glass in the bottom too, which is another reflection. Maybe it is reflecting the colors on the back, which also adds to the image, and the symmetrical background, which is then a little bit, or you broke the symmetrical with different types of glasses. Really well done. Then we have this from Stefan Kuhl, another spherical ball that's done a little bit differently, so that the background or the bridge in the background is out of shape, and then you have the ball and crystal clear and sharp inside the ball, and I think that makes this image slightly better than the one we saw earlier with the similar subject and a bridge and a glass ball. And there were some similar approaches in all of these assignments, which was really interesting to see, and a little bit different implementing the idea. But yes, this one could be slightly brighter. It's looks to be a little bit underexposed in my opinion, but it still works. And I like also the color contrast. You have the slightly yellowish background, and then you have more blue in the middle, which also makes it a little bit odd, because usually something that's further away is blue, and closer we come, it gets warmer in color. And this kind of plays with that, and I like that also makes the dimensions and the 3D feeling quite strong. Then we have this from Johannes Ortner. So it was the second best of the month, and I really enjoyed this pretty ordinary scene that is made really surreal for photographed through a glass. You got duplicates people there, and then the top part is still like a normal world. So it's an interesting kind of mix of two different worlds, and I think that made the image, and also the slight how would I say it? It's not too busy, so that there are not too many people, just two couples of four people there, which kind of makes it, if there would have been more, then it would probably not have worked that well. But I think this works well, and you can clearly see that there is a glass in the bottom part of the image, or some sort. And I think this came out really well. Then we have Raquel Duarte, who was really successful last month. She had all the 4 images in top 10. Now she has a top 10 image again, and this time the best of the month. And the reason this one was best, because it's first of all the hardest to execute, and it executed perfectly. And photographing the dancer in the air with the striped shirt and then the same type of stripes from the reflect or from the some kind of a prism that makes those rainbow colors. That and the whole tone, the kind of like purple tone on the image is just it's a stunning image in my opinion. I don't know, what do you think? Was that the best image in your opinion of the 10? And I will again put those images in a couple of days. I will put them in PicDrop and send an email or a newsletter and the link, and I will again have a password so it's not public, so it's only for you guys that have been part of this assignment, because I think it's better that way. And the January images I won't be putting there because there were some people that didn't want the portrait part to be there because of they have done permission to have it on the online. They have the permission to be on this, which I will respect. So those won't be there, but I will add these so that then you can kind of decide yourself which one you have picked. And like I said, this is always my subjective opinion of the images, and I try to be consistent and fair to get the best image and try to also to explain. But of course, if you have something or different opinion, it's always interesting to hear. There were last time a few questions about how do I define landscape, because there were a few images, like 8 or 10 images that I had to disqualify because I didn't think that they were landscapes. And there were a few images like a lamppost against the sky with no real texture on the sky, and I don't think that's a landscape. And then there were a few cityscapes, which is of course on the borderline. Is landscape inside a cityscape? I'm not sure. In my opinion, it's not. But of course, a park in a city is a slightly different thing, because you can't really say it's. But it's a little tricky, and I hope it didn't cause you any harm too much, because this is, of course, a little competition. But you shouldn't take it this too seriously. But I try to be more precise with the upcoming assignments, if there are any interpretation. What is something that I want you to photograph. And yeah, let's go to I have week 11, which was, whoops, sorry, now we have the text a little bit. I wasn't paying attention how the text goes to week 11. So this is water in motion. And this was very interesting, because quite a few photographed the traditional way, some waterfalls or some rivers and rapids and stuff like that, and water. But then there were these type of images, like this image from Andrea Barroso, which was something else. And there is some kind of a reflection, and then you have the guy drinking from a water fountain. Is that a fountain? Whatever, drinking fountain, whatever that is. But anyways, and you can see what's going on, even though the water is not in a very big part of this. But we have to say that it is still the thing that's happening in this particular image, and that's why it's in top 10. And it's very well executed, visually pleasing, and I also like that it's not really sharp. It's sharp. The water is sharp, but the person in the background is not sharp. It's a little fuzzy, and that makes it a lot more interesting. Then we have this from Jens Degard, and I really like this image. I don't know if that's Hulk Hogan or who that is, and it made me laugh or smile more likely, and you can really see the moving water here. And I especially enjoy that the shower or whatever that is probably one of those that you give water to plants, to flowers. that it's a little bit moving, so there is some movement. Maybe the background could have been more interesting. Maybe it's just a concrete wall, but the whole idea was really, really a lot of fun because it was not something that everybody was doing, and that's also and of course the background is good in a way that it goes really nice, the color contrast with Hulk Hogan, and it's it made me smile. So that's one part why I like this image, and it's well executed, and I like the square format too on this. Then we have this from Raquel Duarte again. She had an image that's a 6 in a row. That's quite good. This very abstract image with water coming through some kind of a, I don't know, metal thing, and it's running from it, and you can really see the movement of the water and the abstract feel and the pitch black background, which I usually try to avoid, but on this one it's really makes the image. And I also like the composition, that is a little bit off, that she has cut the edge of the plate where the water is coming. I think that's what made this image, pop out from all the rest, because of the little bit different approach and different idea, very creative idea. Then we have this from Isabelle Fourret, another great image. I really like the different colors, the red colors in probably a glass bowl, and then some sort of a faucet that is lit in a way. So it's a little mystical image too, and really need to figure out what it is. And then also the colors on the top, and again a pitch black, which kind of makes the colors pop, and also a great abstract image, and this would go well with the previous image, a similar type of idea done a little bit differently. But of course, if something goes with some other image, that's nothing to do with me picking the image to be top 10. But yeah, a little different approach again, which is of course a plus. Then this from Peter Hagen, a very abstract looking image. I really like the shape of the water. It's probably some kind of a waterfall or rapid or I don't know, something like that. And I like how the water goes. There's a swirl in the middle and really nice composition, and it kind of makes a shape. It's almost like a face. If you see, there's a like the hair in the back, and then you have an ear in the middle, and then kind of the eye and a beard and a nose. It's you can see a person there if you really try hard. It's not obvious, but I think it kind of works. It makes a really nice shape. Usually moving water is just moving water. It's not very interesting, but this one, because of the shape, and of course I also like the color. It's the really bright highlights and then different shades of blue, so it's kind of like a duotone image almost. And definitely color. I don't think this would be that good with black and white or in black and white. Then we have Danyana Theis. Very interesting looking place, and I think really well photographed too. It's not a very easy place to photograph, and with the long shutter speed, she had made the water look like what it is. And then also the composition, that there's the house blocking the view, and then it kind of goes in there, and then it comes back with the water, and it opens up, and you can imagine that the water is going this way. And I'm glad that it's not in a big area, because that part of the image doesn't look that good. The water is not looking that interesting, because it's a little bit green, and the other parts of the water is more bluish. But other than that, I think it's a great image. Maybe a slightly vignetting a little bit would have made it even better. But I think it's an interesting place, and really worth photographing. again and looking at what are the options there, and also like the little window up there, which adds to the image. And now my other computer is also lacking here, but the stream I think should be okay, and I can't see the comments there, but on that one I can see. Okay, let's continue with the next one. Then we have Bill Landon's image through some glass that the water is running on the glass, or yeah, probably it is some kind of a terrace, and there is a glass or some plastic window or whatever. And this is a really abstract and impressionistic image with some great colors. I like the blue tones, and then there's some warm tones, some yellows and reds and top. And you can see that it is a terrace. You can see some couches, a table, and some chairs, white chairs, and maybe a wall. Maybe it's a tent. And then I also like how the water is doing these big stripes and bending the colors and making the colors really looking impressionistic. Now I have to refresh this. Let's see if this works. I don't know what's the problem with the Wi-Fi. But anyways, let's continue. And then another image that made me smile in Ian Wade's image, someone holding an umbrella. And I like the way that you barely see the face, of a smiling face, but it's not that obvious. You kind of have to build the face and the person's expression in your mind, which is always interesting because it kind of boosts up our creativity. I don't know how this would have looked in color. Not sure. Maybe too distracting but I don't know. But this is also one reason why it's here. It is because of the original idea in a way that it's an umbrella. Is of course in the rain is a bit of a cliche, but this type of umbrella is not something that you see all the time, and also extra plus for taking the effort to photograph in the rain. Really well done image. And then we have two more. Then we have this abstract, well seen image of some water fountain or memorial or statue or whatever that is, and that's Greg Folkestad. And I really enjoy this composition. This type of image, I like that it is symmetrical, and you have the darker line that is kind of a little bit breaking the symmetry. It's a little bit leaning on the left side on this, and the exposure is perfect. The water looks really nice, and you can clearly see that it's water, but it's still a little bit abstract, and you have to, if you don't know, you have to kind of look at it and realize that it is water, and it's probably not that much water, but the exposure is just spot on. Without it, a little bit shorter would have made it not that interesting, and if it was even longer, then the texture would have probably been washed out because of the long exposure, too long exposure. But I think it's working really well. And then we have this month's winner, and it is this from Paula Guerra. Totally surreal image, which I don't know what it is. Are these things with the numbers, with the measures, are they there? Is it composite, or what is it? There's probably a courtyard with some fountains, and then this in top, and then the flowers, and the colors and everything. This is so bizarre, but really interesting image, and something totally different from everything else, and well executed too. Because of course, being totally different is not a value itself. It needs to be executed very well, and that's usually the problem, that if you start thinking too much to be different, then you lose the focus of a good image, because that's always the best thing. And one thing I like also about this is the light. You have a really backlit scene, overexposed background. You really see that first with the red flowers, and then you start seeing the waters or the water fountains, and then you have the sign on the wall of the, I don't know what it is, maybe it's a museum or some sort, and then slight hint of blue sky. I think it's a stunning image. I hope you enjoyed these images. And now we're going to week 12, which was a still life inspired by the photo or a painting. And another image from Don Gov. And this one is, as he said, that it's not a one single image or piece of art. It is Hieronymus Bosch. And yes, this is, except this is black and white. Hieronymus Bosch usually made some color images, or those that I know. I couldn't really find any black and white. Maybe it's just me, but it doesn't really. Oh, it's the, well, it should be on power. Maybe I'll be back in a moment. There's something. Just a minute. And we're back. I don't know what was wrong with the charging of the camera, because of course I have it plugged into the wall, so it doesn't use the battery, but it needs to have a battery in, and somehow the battery ran out, and now I have a full battery and now it's charging again, so I don't know what's going on there. But yes, where was I? Yes, Hieronymus Bosch, this image. Really well executed, and it totally reminds or resembles his work. And then let's go to the next one. And this one is, yes, someone could say that it is not a still life, but the original kind of is, even though it's a painting of a girl. And this is Johannes Vermeer's Girl Reading a Letter at an Open Window. And okay, this is brought into this world because there is the iPad, and this is a really well made kind of copy and inspiration from Vermeer's painting. And there were two type of approaches on this, because of course you can get inspired by, like the first one from Don Gaff. It was kind of inspired by, and then there were some that were kind of copied, and either way it was totally fine. It all depended on the execution and if it is a good photograph too. So it's not only that it is a exact copy, but if it was well executed. But I forgot to ask at the beginning when we started week 12, who do you think is the most or the artist that was most inspired or inspiring for you on this? Please tell me in the comments. Is the audio now on? Yeah, it is. Yeah, there was a little part that there was no audio because I turned it off, the audio, and then because of the camera was off, and because the audio goes through the camera, and that was probably why there was no audio. But yeah, please let me know in the comments down below if or not, but in the chat, if you guess what the artist is that was for you the most inspiring for making this. Then we have this from Erin Green. I think she had another image in top 10 this month, and this is Andrew Wyatt's Christina's Teapot, and this was one of those that was perfectly made similar image, and I really enjoyed this because it's not easy to make the painting and photograph the same stuff and almost the same props also too, and the feeling and the whole texture and everything. This is really well made, and it's a really good resemblance of that image. Then we have Ned Kelly by Sidney Nolan. No, sorry. Cut Glass Bath by René Magritte. Sorry, I was a little bit ahead, so someone already know which one is the next one. But anyways, this is also something that René Magritte has done with the glass bowls and giraffes and some kind of animals. And what I liked about this is that Paul has added something to it, so that there are more giraffes than René Magritte usually does, all the pieces that I saw. So that's also something that is good, and it is. You can really tell that it's René Magritte's work, and was real well made. And now we have an image from Ian Wade, which is the Ned Kelly by Sidney Nolan, and I think Ned Kelly was a outlaw in Australia, and that's a piece that Sidney Nolan has made several of them with the similar type of cardboard figure in different places, and I enjoyed this image because you could fit it in there and nobody would know the difference, and that's why I think this one was something worth being in top 10. Then we have something that when I saw the image, I would not have guessed who was or what image was the inspiration for Brad Warrior on this one. And believe it or not, it was Ansel Adams, who is known more for his photographs of Yosemite landscape and black and white landscape. But yes, he has quite similar image that this. It's not perfectly identical, but pretty close, and I really enjoyed this image, which is called Scissors and Thread. And this one was also really well executed, and I think these type of practices that you try to make an image that exists and recreate it are very good practice to overcome different kinds of obstacles. And what's most important is that it is also very important in that to learn how the image was made. You need to figure out so many things. You figure out that, of course, the props is one thing, then the light is one thing, which is usually quite hard sometimes, and then you need to figure out the focal length and maybe sometimes even the aperture and try to recreate the same image. And I think that's why these type of photo assignments are really valuable. You learn a lot. Well made, Brad, anyways. And then, yes, someone said Van Gogh, and there were several of these, and I think this one was by far the best This is from Marta Cardoso, and everybody probably knows this is Sunflowers by Van Gogh. And what's great about this image, it is a stack of 20 images, and that's why it looks like a painting. But it's still not exactly the same, but close enough to be, inspired. And the colors and everything, and the painterly look because of the stack of several images make this image great. Now I have to see if I can refresh my... All right, now it works again. I hope it refreshes, because it's a bit annoying when I don't see that the stream is working. Yeah, and let's go to the next one. But yeah, someone says it was libnodal. That's it, Van Gogh. And yeah, then Cliff Collins said that he was inspired by Rembrandt images. And yeah, Rembrandt is very important in photography, because we call one certain type of lighting when we light portraits is the Rembrandt lighting. It's one of those where you have the triangle on other cheek of the person. And let's go to the next one. And this one is almost identical, but there is small differences from the original image, which is a photo by Darek Grabus, which he has a lot of these type of images with forks and shadows and stuff. And I think Deb O'Connor did a marvelous job on recreating that type of image. And probably, I hope, she also learned quite a bit because of the way she made this. It's not easy. The difference from the original is the background is a little bit different, and I think that's good to make a little alternation so it's not exactly the same. But I think this works well, and looks very easy, but when you're making this image, it's not. It takes a lot of time, and that's why I also like this image, that there's a lot of effort to it. It's not very easy to make this image. Then we come to top 3. Then we have Isabelle Furet, which is Vere nature morte aux fleurs sauvages by Vincent van Gogh. There were several of them, and 2 of them were in top 10. It's not supposed to say pardon my French, because then I probably have used bad language, but pardon my French, which I was saying what the name of the painting was. And this is what's inspired by Van Gogh on this one is the colors, and there is a similar type of image than this, but slightly different, and I really enjoy this. And also there's a kind of a thing about photographing through a glass, so this could have been on that one too, but probably wouldn't have been in top 10. But on this assignment, it definitely is one of the best ones on this one. Yes, really nice composition, and the colors, and the resemblance of that image or that painting from Van Gogh. Then we have this Pascal Giguère's image that is inspired by the lily that was photographed by Robert Mapplethorpe. Of course, Robert Mapplethorpe is also known for something else, which I'm not gonna say out loud here because YouTube might flag this. But if you have never seen Robert Mapplethorpe's images, you should look at them, because he has lots of nice portraits, and also the flowers are beautiful. This one also looks to be really easy to make, but having the light so that you can really see the shape and the texture and all the little details in a flower like this, it's not easy. And also like the really shallow depth of field, if you see the part in the lower part of the flower, it's slightly out of focus, but then the focus is in exactly the right spot, and looks simple, as I said, but not really that easy to execute this image. And the square format works really well with the black background, like what Robert Mapplethorpe used a lot. And then we have this peeled clementine, which was photographed by Christina Barnes, and the original painting is by J. Palmer. And this is also really well executed and really beautifully lit, and because you can see nice side lighting, and you can really see the structure of the clementine when it's peeled, and you know how what it's not the skin or whatever, it's hanging from the counter or the table. It's almost exactly the same image, even though of course the clementine looks a little bit different because it is of course a different clementine than in the original. But I think it works really beautifully, and I also like how the background is lit. There is very dark background, as you can see, but there are details in the background, and that is not that easy to make, so that the balance is really good and the colors really pop out from the clementine. And what we see, because the top part is so bright, we see that first, then we come down, and then we start seeing the small details in the background, the wooden counter or table or whatever that is. It's really beautifully made image. So congratulations for 10 points for this. Let's see if I have my... So yes, I hope you've been enjoying so far, and sorry for the little technical difficulties that I've had on this live stream with the start and then the battery running out, which was odd because it shouldn't do that. And yeah, now we're heading towards the last assignment, which was hands and showing hands and telling stories about the person in hands with the hands. And this one from Maria Campos was totally different from anything else. It's an image of an X-ray and showing the hands, which not a doctor, but seems to be totally okay. And of course, you can imagine what the story is. Maybe it's showing that the hand has healed or something. Maybe it's telling the story about Maria Campos's work or whatever that is. And I always said that when you're trying to make stories, don't expect all of us to see the same story, because we all have different lives with different experiences, with different age, with different cultures. We build up the story in our imagination, and I think all the stories that you see are correct. So in that way, there is no wrong stories. If your imagination starts, spinning around in your head and you think of all different things, then I think the photographer has succeeded. If it's a documentary, then of course it's a little bit different thing. You want to tell a story, what really has happened. But I don't think we are in that genre of photography. Maybe some of you are, but most of us aren't. We're more of storytellers in a different way. And I think this one tells something. Then we have this from Antonio Figuera, really beautiful hands, and something totally different also when it comes to the hands, like the first one we saw. And I really like the position of the hands, and really beautiful skin and the yellow nails. And for me, I think that probably a woman, a dancer or artist or something, because the really beautiful hands, a young one maybe. And also the color of the shirt and the background and everything fits. This is really visually pleasing image, and the beautiful light that makes the shape of the hands and everything works in this. I really like this image. Then we have this very striking image from Anne Kasurinen. She has shown us previously in other live streams, over the years, some really interesting images. Of course, this one, is not going to start thinking of what the story is, but it is a bit haunting and a bit scary, but very striking image, and could be a part of a bigger series of images of this type with some different jewelry or whatever. But this one was striking. I hope you're okay and you didn't hurt yourself too much, but a lot of effort to this image. I don't know if this is you, but I think I've seen a lot of your images over the years on these live streams when you have sent those images. And when I saw this image and didn't know who made the image, I guessed, because you have a distinctive style in that, which I think is very good. And then this one from Johannes Ortner, a pianist, musician, and there were quite a few of these, and what made this one to the top 10 was the position of the hands, which was not the usual like this. Well, it looks funny because my fingers are big, but because it's this way, and the lighting is quite nice, and the contrast is quite striking, and maybe a little bit too bright on the right side. But then the composition, that it's straight in the middle, the keys, and then you have totally pitch black background and high contrast in the hands, and a little bit different angle of view than most of them. Okay, Anne Kasurinen is saying that no one was harmed during this image making. That's good. That's good to hear. Then we have this from Yossi Ran, a farm worker peeling a zucchini, maybe. Yeah, that's probably what it is. And look at the hands, and look at the clothing, and look at everything. Maybe a little bit flat light, but it still has the shape of the hands, and you can still see the story of this a little bit older farmer who's been working on the farm maybe a long time, and maybe in a lunch time, or maybe it's, I don't know what it's doing, why it's peeling the zucchini, but also the timing of the shot where you have the knife inside but it's not cut yet, and all the markings on the hands and everything. There is a lot of life in this. Really well made image. Then we have another one of this piano playing, and what made this image to top 10 is the movement. You have a lot of movement. You can really almost hear the music. The keys are down. You can almost hear the sound, and the hands are going, and you have the motion blur, but still you have enough sharpness in the image. So it's probably, I don't know if you used a tripod or not, because the keys of the piano are totally sharp, and the warm colors, and everything works. Maybe a little bit brighter could have worked even better. Not sure, but it's a little dark, but nevertheless it's quite good anyways. And it was made by Roland Fischer. Then we have this, which is another musician. This was from Wilfred Seise. Another musician, guitar this time, not a piano, and the position of the fingers are just perfect. You have the fingers like this, you have the little hole, and then you have the hole in the guitar, whatever that's called. It's probably not a hole, but anyways, and then the strings and the composition, the hand comes from this, and then the strings go this way, and the color tones and everything just works. This beautiful image. And it tells a lot about the person. Musician, and even though it's quite obvious probably that guitar is the thing. But anyways, that's why we have it there. We want to tell the stories. Otherwise we wouldn't know. Just hands without anything. If the hands are young, it usually doesn't work. Of older people, you can kind of tell the life story if it's been rough or not, or if you look at the hands. And then another one, a little bit different perspective, and then again you have the music in the background. What do you call the notes? Is that notes? Whatever, anyways. And then you have the keys there, and then you have the moving hands. You can hear different type of music than you were hearing from the other similar type of images. I would say that this is more faster paced music than the other one with the more warm tone. This one, black and white. I don't know how this would have worked in color. I don't know. Maybe it would have made the feeling totally different. But I really enjoy this, and especially the little bit different point of view. And then we have Volker Thomsen, and again, real worker's hands, or someone who has been working on engines and grease things and stuff, and really well made composition. There is a lot of extra information in the around the hands. It's just not the hands, and it just adds to the image so much. And nice side lighting that makes the wrinkles and some dirt and everything show, and also the balance between the engine and the hands, because of course the engine is very dark and hands are light, but it's very good balanced, and it also works really well in black and white. And then we have one more image, and Raquel Duarte, another winner of the month. So she has 3 out of 4 and 2 winners. That's remarkable, and really something that it blows my mind. And the close up of the hands and really telling the story with really small elements. You have the dough, and then the hands is baking the dough, and you have the flour around, and you don't need many things to see. Okay, maybe it's a worker in a bakery, or maybe it's a old lady baking for her family, or something else. But yeah, works perfectly, and this one was very close with this one. They were almost the same, but I think this came out on top anyways. So now we have seen all the assignments and all the 10 best, or in one assignment we had 11 best, and now it's time for the top 4 images that were the winners of each category. And let's take a look. We had this image from Raquel Duarte. This was the image through some glass or prism or something like that. Then we have this from Paulo Guerra. That was the moving water. Then we have this Christina Barnes image that was inspired by Peeled Clementine by J. Palmer, a painting. Then we have another one from Raquel Duarte, which was the hands that tell a story. And the best one was this image. I think this is a stunning image. So it's Raquel Duarte. And the interesting thing is that it was between those 2 of her images, which was quite astonishing. So she had 2 of the best images this month, which blows my mind that she's capable of doing that, because there are so many good images this month that it was really not an easy call, like it always is. Really hard to pick the best one. And as I said, it's always subjective to when you're judging images. It's kind of my opinion, what I like, and then I try to explain it to why I made the decision. And this one is because of first of all, it's not very easy to make this image, and it's also visually very pleasing. The composition is really well made, and what is the composition about this is that the dancer is on that side, but it is looking that way. So it's kind of a little bit wrong, which makes it more tension. And then the reflections of the prism or whatever is just perfectly aligned and kind of adds to the whole image, and kind of adds some speed also, some motion, some speed to the whole image. And then there is a couple of more things, other scores, and you probably guessed that on March Raquel Duarte had the most points, 28, which is I think the most points ever in 1 month. And then Paula Guerra had 19, Christina Barnes 13, Johannes Ordner 12, and then the rest of the names. I'm sorry that some of the names are little small letters and very close to the number. That's because of the software doesn't really understand if there are more in one line. And I wanted to have, if there are some, like 11 points, there were 4 photographers, and 4, so that they were more in top 10 because of the same points. But yeah, and this means for the total score that Raquel Duarte took the lead by quite many points, 49. So let's hope that we get some more winners from others. But of course, if Raquel is winning again, that's totally fine if she is that good. But other than that, it's pretty close. There's 21 points for 10th position, which is not, you one win and you like number 3 almost, so it's not that far. And then one thing about that I've got a lot of questions about week 14, when you're making the diptych, you don't need to worry about the metadata, because I know that when you're combining images, you might lose the metadata and you can't really do anything about it. So don't worry about it. I've gotten a few emails about it, but I haven't answered them yet because I thought that I will tell it in the live stream, and I will put that on the next newsletter that I'm sending in a couple of days, where I add a link to the PicDrop gallery. But I hope you have enjoyed this live stream, and congratulations to all top 10 place photographs and photographers, and also congratulations to all who participated. I know it's not an easy task to get one decent image a week when life is happening on the side, and then you have to take the time to photograph and plan everything. But I hope you can still keep up this month, and I will have another live stream in a month's time, just about, and I will send a links in a newsletter, and also links to when you can start submitting the April images. Probably again, I'm not really checked the image, but the same schedule that it has been so far. But I think we have covered everything that was planned for this, and I want to thank you for being here, and thanks for watching, and bye for now.